Hey everybody, good morning. It's Tuesday. It's a beautiful day out. I hope you get some time outside. I'm so excited because today I'm going to share with you guys my absolute favorite picture book. This story, some of you have heard me read this to you actually in your classrooms. But I love hearing the same stories over and over, so I hope you're okay listening to a same story again. This story is called The Big Orange Splot, and many of you know that every time we read it as a class, we go when we get to the Big Orange Splot, so feel free to do that today. I also have a little assignment with this book today. I'm going to ask all of you that are able to draw a picture of your fantasy house, whatever a house you could design in a perfect world where money was no object and it didn't matter what it looked like, just as long as you were happy with it. I would love for you to draw that house and either you or somebody at home take a picture of it and email it to me. Because what I would love to picture is a slideshow with all of our Big Orange Splot houses to show off Vestal's cool creativity. Last thing I'm going to say before I just jump in and read it, one of the reasons this is my favorite book of all time is because it talks about individual identity and community diversity in the greatest, most creative way. Those are two parts of our being a school for social justice, and those are two really important things to keep in mind right now, today, and every day. So, be thinking about this. Get your hands ready. The Big Orange by Daniel Manis Pinkwater. Here we have the title again, The Big Orange. Mr. Plumbean lived on a street where all the houses were the same. He liked it that way, and so did everybody else on Mr. Plumbean's street. This is a very neat street, they would say. Then, one day, one of my favorite pages, a seagull flew over Mr. Plumbean's house. He was carrying a can of bright orange paint. No one knows why. And he dropped that can, no one knows why, right on Mr. Plumbean's house. Get your hands ready. It made a big orange on Mr. Plumbean's house. Oh, too bad, everyone said. Mr. Plumbean will have to paint his house again. Oh, I suppose I will, said Mr. Plumbean. But he didn't paint his house right away. He looked at that big orange for a long time, and then he just went about his business. The neighbors got tired of seeing that big orange. Somebody said, Mr. Plumbean, listen, we really wish you would get around to painting your house. Okay, said Mr. Plumbean. He got some blue paint and some white paint, and that night he got busy. He painted at night because it was cooler. When the paint was gone, the roof was blue, the walls were white, and the big orange was still there. Then he got some more paint. He got red paint, yellow paint, green paint, and purple paint. Well, in the morning, the other people on the street came out of their houses. Their houses all still were the same. But Mr. Plumbean's house, it was like a rainbow. It was like a jungle. It was like an explosion. And I love this picture because it kind of zooms in on all the details of the fun things he painted on his house. Well, there was the big orange, and there were little orange. There were stripes, there were pictures of elephants and lions and pretty girls and steam shovels. The people said, Plumbean has popped his cork, flipped his wig, blown his stack, and dropped his stopper. Oh, they went away muttering. That night, Mr. Plumbean bought carpenter's tools, and he built a tower on the top of his roof. He painted a clock on the tower. Ooh, look at that. That's a nice addition. We could add that onto our house, actually. The next day, the people said, Plumbean has gushed his mush, lost his marbles, and slipped his hawser. They decided that they would pretend not to notice. That very night, Mr. Plumbean got a truck full of green things. He planted palm trees, baobabs, thorn bushes, onions, and frangipani. In the morning, he bought a hammock and an alligator. When the other people came out of their houses, they saw Mr. Plumbean swinging in his hammock between the two palm trees. That would be nice today. They saw an alligator lying in the grass, and Mr. Plumbean was drinking lemonade. Plumbean has gone too far. This used to be a very neat street. Plumbean, what have you done to your house? The neighbors all shouted. My house is me and I am it. My house is where I like to be, and it looks like all of my dreams, Mr. Plumbean said. Oh, the people went away. They asked the man who lived next door to Mr. Plumbean to please go and have a talk with him. Tell him we all liked it here better when everything looked the same. Tell him that he needs to change his house. It has to be the same as ours so that we can have a neat street. Well, the man went to see Mr. Plumbean that evening. They sat under the palm trees drinking lemonade and talking all night long. Early the next morning, the man went out to get lumber and rope and nails and paint. And when the people came out of their houses, they saw a red and yellow ship next to the house of Mr. Plumbean. I do not think this is what the other neighbors were expecting. What have you done to your house? They shouted at the man. My house is me and I am it. My house is where I like to be, and it looks like all of my dreams, said the man who had always loved ships. He's just like Plumbean, the people said. He's got bees in his bonnet, bats in his belfry, and knots in his noodle. Then, one by one, they each went to see Mr. Plumbean late at night. They would sit under the palm trees and drink lemonade and talk about their dreams. And whenever anybody visited Mr. Plumbean's house, the very next day that person would set about changing his or her house to fit their dreams. Check out some of the houses in the neighborhood. Oh my goodness gracious. I love this castle. Well, whenever a stranger came to the street of Mr. Plumbean and his neighbors, the stranger would say, this is not a very neat street. But then all the people would say, our street is us and we are it. Our street is where we like to be, and it looks like all of our dreams. There is either the sun setting or the moon rising on Mr. Plumbean's house. All right, everybody, I want you to think a little bit about why this story is so great for individual identity and community diversity. And if you would like, I would love, 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 love to see a house that you would create. All right, have a great Tuesday, everybody. Bye-bye.